Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, we had the Year 8 season simulation, and as you can see, we actually made the playoffs for the first time in franchise history, which kind of still is a pretty big surprise to me, because honestly, if you look at our individual numbers, like our goals for and all that stuff, nothing really stood out as a super good stat. But I was really impressed still with a lot of the guys on our top line as per usual. So I think our team definitely is going to be interesting this playoff run, but I don't really know if it's going to last super long either, because we are going to be going up against a tough Minnesota Wild team. But you could see with our forwards, like our depth scoring really wasn't too bad on paper. Like we had guys picking up 30 points in the bottom six and all that. So I didn't mind the offense too much. From a defensive standpoint, you could see we had some pretty good defensive results too. Like we only had one defenseman that was pretty bad in terms of plus minus in Arena. And then our goaltending, it was technically, I think, the best it's ever been technically with a 902 and a 905. So we are still trending in the right direction, but obviously since we're going into the playoffs, we're going to be going up against the best of the best, so it's definitely going to be a tough task for his team in its first ever playoff run. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting that I didn't actually take a look at in last episode, but I was going to start recording this episode, and I'm kind of curious on what Rick Kim's overall is now at this stage, because obviously we didn't take a look at that in the last episode. Well, let me tell you that Rick Kim should probably come up to the NHL team for the playoffs, because he has jumped up all the way to an 82 overall, which is insane. So he's ready to go basically as a third line or a second line center already on this team after one season in the minors, which was kind of a surprise because I didn't expect him to jump up that much again. But he had 60 points in his first AHL season, 75 penalty minutes. He was really solid. So I think I might call him up for this playoff run, just because that gives us a better chance down the middle to maybe win some faceoffs and get some points. He isn't the best centerman in terms of faceoff stats, but I probably will still use him as a center just because he's more of an offensive player anyways. And I might try and throw him in on the second line and then demote Bogosian down to the third line, or I maybe put him on the third line. But I want Rick Kim to get a chance to play in the NHL playoffs this season. That is if the AHL team didn't make the playoffs, which I don't think they did based on the plus minuses on the team. But yeah, we got some pretty good growth from the AHL guys. Like you could also see that Ilya Bure is now up to a 70 overall, so maybe he'll make it someday as a fourth line type of guy. He had a pretty good season next to Kim. We also do have Ahinen on 44 points. He is up to a 72. So there is some guys that might get into the NHL team as early as next season. Tyson Gardner's up to a 65, which is great, but he is 23 already. So some of these low elites taking definitely a little bit more time to develop, but that medium elite for sure is really good. And then also Trenton Spezza was actually pretty good this season, I'd say, in the AHL, and same with Semenov as a backup. So Spezza is likely going to be our NHL starter next season. He's as good as basically our NHL goalies right now. And then Semenov is also getting kind of close. So at some point, Dalcoli and Shipley might be getting closer to being AHL goaltenders because they're like 77 and 76 at their highest. So definitely I think Spezza will be our starter next year, though, but he will not be coming up for the playoffs. But I think Rick Kim will, just because I think that'll be kind of a cool little addition to our roster. But anyways, before we get into doing all that stuff, let's get into our comments from last episode and see what you guys have to say. And then we'll obviously get Kim into our lineup and see if he's a good fit for our lineup. If he's not, maybe I'll leave him in the AHL for the rest of the year still, even though he's technically not in the NHL playoff or AHL playoffs. But it would be interesting to get our first taste of Rick Kim in a playoff scenario. So the first comment is from Sound Taco, says, by being a couple years away from playoff contention, I totally meant you'd make it right now. Not expecting to go very well, and I'd say it's likely you regress next season. Your elite goalie prospect can't come up soon enough, and elite two-way defenseman would also be very helpful. So he thinks that next season we won't make the playoffs, and I agree with that. I think there definitely is a little bit of regression that our team should have in a way, because we're kind of trending in the right direction a lot as of lately. Like we're kind of over simulating in a way too. So maybe next season there's a little bit of regression. We maybe just barely missed the playoffs, but then our team should be back into being a good playoff team maybe the season after that. So hopefully though, we have an interesting run here, and hopefully it's a good little bit of experience for the young guys on our roster. The next comment is from Joseph DM Miller, who says, wow, what a crazy season. And yeah, that was a really crazy season, because I honestly didn't expect us to make the playoffs, but here we are in a playoff spot with 44 wins, which is rather impressive for a team that scored less goals than they allowed. I mean, technically our goals against was our best part of our team, I guess, in a way. But I don't think anything was really super well done on our team. So obviously this is still going to trend in the right direction over the next few years, and hopefully eventually we could score more goals than we allow. And the last and final comment is from Nick Bucker. Barons OCU says, this is something prepared to win an upset series, take down a contender in round 2, and then get blown out in the conference finals. So he thinks this team could get all the way to the conference finals, which, in my opinion, I think we're definitely not going to get that far. But honestly, anything could really happen with this game. You don't really know if your team could go really far as a team that's kind of a cheese team, because we technically would be a cheese team if we honestly got to a conference finals. But I definitely think it's going to be a lot of uphill climbing. Like the team we're playing for our first ever matchup is Minnesota with 118 points. Like that is a lot more points than us. So it's definitely going to be probably a very tough first task, but it will be a nice way to kind of get our team used to playoff hockey, because obviously they've never been here before at this point in time. So anyways, let's make our roster move here and see if Rick Him will be a good fit here. And that would be really nice. I think what I'll probably end up doing is sending Tulipov down to the AHL, because obviously Tulipov's the lowest end center on this team is a 75. He does have good face-off stats. That's one thing I like about him, but he definitely will be out of the lineup here, it looks like, because we have just too much centers. So we will call up Rick Him, and we'll send down Tulipov for the start of the playoffs. I could use Tulipov. I could call up Tulipov again if Rick Him isn't a great fit here, but obviously, right now, we want to put Rick Him into the lineup. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get Steen down to the 4th line. Rick Him's going to jump into this 3rd line spot. He's actually only an 81, apparently, but he's a fantastic fit for the 3rd line. That's beautiful. He's not a great centerman in terms of winning draws, but he's a great fit on that 3rd line. Can any of these other guys take faceoffs? Doig technically can, but he's already a right wing and left wing. It would be really nice if we could somehow turn Doig into a center. I feel like Kim would be good next to Bogosian, but then I would still need that 2nd line center. Like, if I go up here, he's not probably as good of a fit, right? He's still actually a pretty good fit. And then I could move somebody else to center, but We'll leave Kim as a 3rd line center. I think that's a good place for him. And then in terms of the power play, I would like to get him onto the power play units, so I will be putting him in instead of, I guess, instead of Stefan Steen. Stefan Steen, like I said, has been good, but obviously Rick Him is the best potential player we have for this roster, and he actually makes his power play good too. He's a good fit on the PP too. That's really good with this coach. So he's actually going to be a really good fit for this team. And who knows, maybe he'll make us actually win games in the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see, but I think it's just good to get a little taste of action of Rick Him and see what he could do for our team as we go forward. I don't know if he'll be on a penalty killing unit. Does put him on a penalty kill, and is he a good fit? He's a good fit on the PK as well. He fits everything with this coach. Penalty kill, regular strength, power play. All right. Well, even though he's a sniper, I will give him a chance on the PK because of that. So that's going to be our team going into the playoffs instead. Rick Kim jumps into the 3rd line. Maybe he could give Doig some scoring, and maybe Rick Kim could be in the top 6 next season. I would love to see if we could get Rick Kim to be in a right winger, and then that way Capaduca could be on the 3rd line, but at the same time, Doig might be back in that spot again. We kind of have a bit of a log jam. I would like him getting better at faceoffs too, because obviously Bogosian's good at faceoffs, so that's why he's in that center spot. But if we could get Rick Kim to be much better at faceoffs, then Kim could be the 2nd line center, Bogosian could be a 3rd line center, and then we have pretty good depth at that point. So that's something we definitely have to look into once we get to the off-season portion. And then let's just throw Tulipov in this spot, because obviously the AHL team shouldn't even be in the playoffs, so we'll just throw Tulipov in the same spots that Rick Kim was. So let's do that. Tulipov, like I said, could come back up in the playoffs at some point if we get into a little bit of trouble, but right now we don't have injuries on, so might as well keep the team like this. Rick Kim is going to be wearing my favorite number from the past. Actually, 63 is technically my favorite number, but 36 was my original favorite number, so who knows, Rick Kim might be a channel favorite if he plays good. I think they actually did fix going into Edit Player and looking at what your players look like now with the bugs that were happening where it would crash all the time. But I am still a little bit skeptical about looking at what he looks like. I'm just going to keep it like that. Might as well. But one last thing before we get into this first round matchup. I know I'm rambling about random stuff, but let's take a look again at Minnesota's lines just so you guys can see what they look like. But this is going to definitely be a tough matchup for our team, but I hope that we could at least win 1 or 2 games, so that way we could show that we could win in the postseason as well. But you can see this top 6 of the Wild is absolutely nasty. Like, elite players on both lines. Third line is really solid too with Joel Eriksson Ek, Matthew Joseph. Fourth line's great. Like, this is one of the best AI forward groups I think I've ever seen. And from a defensive standpoint, not as strong, especially on the left side, but the right side has Brock Faber on it, so it's pretty good in that sense. And in their goaltending, they have Wallstead, obviously, and Wallstead's a really good goaltender too. So I definitely think Minnesota could be a favorite for a Stanley Cup win this season. They had 57 wins on the year too, so they were definitely a very good team. Anyways, let's get to our first ever playoff series. Who is going to be the first player in franchise history to score a playoff goal for our team? I want you guys to drop your predictions before, maybe edit your comment afterwards and say, I was way off or something like that. I don't know. Just give your predictions on who you think will score the first ever playoff goal in franchise history. I'm going to just go out and guess it's going to be somebody either really good, so it could be like Ristolainen, or it's going to be somebody completely that you're not expecting, like Trevelyan or something like that, just because sometimes you get these really weird goal scorers. So I'm going to go with either Ristolainen or Trevelyan. That's going to be my guesses. Let's get to game number 1 in Minnesota. Obviously, we're not going to have home ice advantage, but let's see what we could do here on the road, and maybe we could be a cheese team here in this first ever playoff series. First period of game number 1. 2-1 us. Okay, and the first ever playoff goal was a guy I was potentially going to think about saying, but first, Matthew Joseph opens the scoring for them. Bogosian, the first ever playoff goal in franchise history. Remember that for whenever we win a Stanley Cup. And Drew Bell scores as well, so the defensive defenseman and Bogosian scoring is interesting. We're out shooting them 10-5. I don't really know how, because we don't really have that good of an offense compared to theirs, but so far, so good with this team here early on. Shots 10-5, 2-1 game. We just obviously need the goaltending to play good the rest of the way. Like, allowing a goal of 59 seconds into your first ever playoff game, not the best, but we had a good response, which was good. Let's see if we could add to this lead in the second period. Second period. Still 2-1. Okay, I'll take it. Shots 19-16 so far. Our goaltending has been solid. Offense, obviously, a little bit on the quieter end, so we got to be careful because Minnesota has obviously got the offense that they could get back into games. So we definitely need to play good defensively here in this third period if we want to lock it down. Let's see what happens in the final 20 minutes of game number 1. See if we can lock this first ever playoff game down. Power play for us. We do not score on it. That's unfortunate. Matt Boldy ties the game up, beating Dal Coley. That's okay. Like I said, I want to win at least like 1 to 2 games maybe in this first ever series, but it is going to be tough because Minnesota is such a good team. Norena scores his first ever playoff goal. We have a 3-2 lead late in the game. Is that going to be enough? Yes, it is. The Albuquerque Aliens have won their first ever playoff game in franchise history on a goal from Norena. Final shots 31-22, so I don't know how we outshot them in that game, but I will not question it, as we get a win in our first ever playoff game, which is awesome. Let's freaking go. So Bogosian from Tuzolino is the first ever playoff goal in franchise history. Then we have Bell from Ristolainen and Kolars, and Norena from Steen. Pretty solid. How is Rick Kim in his first ever game here? I know it was obviously his first ever game. He's never played in a regular season game. He was a -1 with 1 shot. Had 1 hit as well. Only played 14 minutes, but obviously there's still a lot of time left for him to do good. And he also only took 2 face-offs, which is interesting. I don't know why he only took 2 face-offs, considering he's a centerman, but that's kind of weird. 3 stars in the game: Boldy, Norena, and Joseph. I'm kind of surprised that Boldy got first star over Norena, considering Norena had the game-winning goal, but we'll not question it. We have a 1-0 series lead, so that's a nice and little cheese win there. Hopefully we could continue that into game number 2. That's a really good way to start it off. But like I said, I do expect us to lose this series, but if we end up winning, we're definitely a cheese team going forward. I think Rick Kim's definitely going to make us assimilate a little bit better, but at the same time, who knows? Maybe Rick Kim's going to be really bad in this series, but I definitely am excited for next season because obviously It'll be the first full season Rick Kim gets to play in the NHL, and who knows, maybe he could be a Calder favorite for our team. So anyways, let's get to game number 2. Keep the team the exact same. I don't even know if I will make much line adjustments even if we lose games because, like I said, this is kind of like a little trial run for this team in the playoffs. So first period, game number 2. 2-1 Minnesota. Okay, so we allowed 2 early goals again. Another one in the first minute, which is kind of weird. Boldy and Rossi score. Both on the power play, too. So our penalty kill off to a little bit of a slow start, which is not great, but that's okay. Stobitz gets us on the board. We're out shooting them 13-9. So once again, we are out shooting them, but now we're trailing 2-1 after 1. So not ideal, but at least we're still in this game. So good to see our captain scoring his first ever playoff goal, though, because I'm pretty sure Stobitz is still the captain, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see what happens in the second period. 4-1. Yeah, this is more what I was expecting from Minnesota. Boldy and Tidjaginla score. Shots are 22-20 in favor of them. They're definitely outplaying us in this one. Looks like we're going to have a split series headed back home, which is a lot better than obviously falling down 0-2. But like I said, this is an early experience for this team in the playoffs. Del Monte gets his first ever playoff goal. Nice. Power play for us. We do not score on that one. That would have been nice if we did, but it's okay. Penalty kill. Nicely done, penalty killers. And Lambos makes it 5-2. Yeah, I knew we weren't going to take both these games. Minnesota's too good of a team to not lose back-to-back games. And we are going to lose 5-2 in game 2, so that's a bit more what I was expecting from our team. Final shots were 33-29, so we are still hanging around with them in shots, but that was a game that obviously our goaltending kind of let us down a little bit. So Stobitz from Ristolainen and Bell, and then Del Monte from Bogosian and Capaduca. How's Rick Kim playing still? Not that I'm going to send him back to the AHL. Only 2 shots on goal in 15 minutes. No goals, obviously. He was actually really good on the faceoff dot. I don't know why he's similarly good in faceoffs. 77.8% on the faceoff dot. That's really good. So he's winning faceoffs for a guy that has a low faceoff rating. So that's maybe good. Maybe that means if we give him boosts in that area, like if he works on his faceoffs in the offseason, maybe he can become a good centerman. Like, I don't know if I want to have a sniper down the middle. I would prefer him to be a winger, but I feel like it would be harder to change him over to a winger. But you never know. We're being outscored 7-5 after 2 games. I could make some adjustments, but honestly, at this point, I don't really care about making adjustments too much because this is our first ever playoff series. I prefer almost maybe to be an early exit in the playoffs this year than going too far because I feel like this team shouldn't go too far. So, you know what? I'm going to keep the team the same. If we lose back-to-back games, maybe I'll make some adjustments. But for right now, like I said, we're in a trial run with this team in the first time ever in the playoffs. So I don't really expect us to go far. So making adjustments and stuff like that, we kind of just want guys to understand how to play in the playoffs first before, obviously, in a few years, we go on a good run. But anyways, our first ever playoff game on home ice for game 3. This should be an exciting one. First period. 2-2. That's a good start offensively for our team as Pavel Malkin opens the scoring. Boldy ties it up, and then Kolar scores on the power play for us. Rossi ties it up. So it's been Rossi and Boldy scoring a lot of goals for Minnesota so far, if I'm not mistaken, in the series. But we have 2 goals on 6 shots. They have 2 goals on 10 shots. So we're scoring on our limited opportunities, which is interesting. Hopefully we can have a good second period here because it would be nice to give our fans a first playoff win on home ice as well in this playoff run, because obviously they've never seen playoff hockey before this. So let's see what happens in the second period, see if we can find a way to grab that lead. Second period. Yikes. Yeah, this team is definitely falling apart defensively. This is exactly what I was kind of expecting from our goaltending and defensive play. It was going to fall apart eventually. Rossi scores on the power play, McKenna scores, and Matthew Joseph scores. We're down 5-2 going into the third period. We had an okay first period, but we didn't have a lot of shots. We still don't have a lot of shots. We only have 14 through 40 minutes. Let's see what we can do in this third period, but it looks like we're going to fall down 2-1. As Malkin gets his second goal of the night, so the first multi-goal effort in the playoffs for the Albuquerque Aliens. That's good to see. Good stuff, Malkin. Can we get any other goals? Yes, we can. Ristolainen pulls us within 1. Okay, can we tie this game up? Can we tie it up? There's a lot of time left on the clock. We definitely could still tie it. And Faber makes it 6-4. Kaprizov makes it 7-4. Shipley's in net, apparently. And unfortunately, it would look like it was going to be a close game, but they get 2 goals late, and they were less than 10 seconds apart, which is also kind of insane. We lose 7-4 in Game 3. Maybe we'll make some adjustments going forward, but that's a good offensive game. Obviously not as much on the defensive / goaltending side of things. Once we get that elite goalie in the NHL, we'll be a lot better defensively, I think, too. But I had an okay first period. Malkin from Narena and Kim. So Kim picks up his first ever playoff point and first ever point in the NHL. Kolars from Ristolainen and Tuzolino. And then we had Malkin from Narena and Kim again. And Ristolainen from Tuzolino and Staubitz. So Kim picking up 2 assists in his third playoff game of his career. So Kim is trending in the right direction, it seems like. He was also +1. Let's go. 13 minutes of ice time. Wasn't as good on faceoffs in this game, but that's okay. Ristolainen took 34 faceoffs. Jeez, that's like double Bogosian's. Because Bogosian had 17 faceoffs he took. So Ristolainen is out there a ton. He's getting 22 minutes of ice time a game. That top line's actually getting 20 plus minutes, most of them too. So, and then the second line gets only like 16 minutes. That's kind of insane. So we're heavily reliant on our top line for ice time, apparently. Malkin did get second star, so shout out to Malkin. Wasn't expecting him to be the first ever guy on our team to score multiple goals in a playoff game, but that's a good game from him. I think we definitely should maybe look at some adjustments, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter too much because, like I said, I'm not really focused on winning the Stanley Cup this year necessarily. But let's go back to edit lines here, see what we can maybe do to change our defensive play up a little bit. Obviously, the offensive core, I think, has to pretty much just stay the same because honestly, it's probably the more the defense that I'd be looking to change. Like, the plus-minus isn't bad except for the fourth line, it seems like, right now. Which makes sense, considering they're not super high overall. There's not really much I could do, because we have the 3 offensive defensemen, and they do not work good together at all. Bates swapping him and Trevelyan could be a thing, I guess. And we could put Narena on his offside. But then we're running 2 right-handed defenders together, which is not great. But let's just try that. And then Dalcoli has been pretty bad so far. Shipley has been even worse. Technically, if I really wanted to, I could call up Spezza from the AHL. Because he's a 75. But I think I'd rather wait till he's actually good overall to put him in the NHL. So I think the rest of this is going to stay. Actually, I could swap Capaduca and Doig. Yeah, let's do that. That's going to be a one offensive change. Because both of them can play right wing and left wing. So we're going to make that small little adjustment. So Capaduca is going to play with Rick Kim and Malkin. So 2 power forwards on that line. And then we have Doig jumping into the top 6 to help out it a little bit in terms of overall rating. Okay, that's good. We'll see if that ends up helping us at all in the rest of the series. But we're down 2-1 only. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, it would be nice to win a game on home ice, though, for our fans. But at the same time, if we lose a series in 5 games, it's not a big issue, really. And I really hope that the draft class ahead is at least somewhat solid, so that way we could get a nice late-round steal to help out our defensive core or whatever we need to address, which defense, I think, is probably a priority for this team. But let's see what happens in Game 4. See if we can get a win here to respond after that loss. But we have been still a solid team here in the playoffs, I would say, for the most part. First period. 1-1, I'll take it. They open the scoring again. It's Marco Rossi again. Damn, Rossi and Boldy are really, really good on Minnesota. And then Del Monte scores his second goal of the playoffs. We're out shooting them 14-6. Wallstead off to a good start for them. They scored 1 goal in their first 6 shots. Not a surprise, really, with the weakness in net for our team. But 1-1 after 1, I'll definitely take that over trailing. Let's see if we have a good second period, because we haven't had good second periods really that much so far in this playoff run. Second period. 3-2 Minnesota. We were up 2-1. Bates scored his first ever playoff goal on defense. Interesting. And then Height and Ginla score. And we're trailing going into the third once again. Shots are 24-21, so pretty close in shots and in goals against. Can we find a way to get back into this game in the third period and tie it up? Let's see what happens. Period 3. Come on, guys. But yeah, this is at least a good little experience for the guys. Bordalo makes it 4-2. I think that's a 4th liner for them, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of insane. Bell pulls us within 1. Bell's been actually not too bad so far in this playoff run. Can we tie this game up at all? Come on, boys. Please. Kaprizov, the empty netter. And just like that, after we had a 1-0 series lead, we lose 3 straight games. In every single one of those games, we've definitely shown that we're still a draft glory team, allowing 5 or more goals. So that kind of sucks, but at the same time, it's to be expected. Del Monte from Norena and Bogosian, Bates from Ristolainen and Norena, and we had Bell from Kapaduka and Malkin. All right, let's take a look at Rick Him's stats, because Rick Him is the most intriguing player that's come out of the AHL in a while. 10 minutes of ice time only. 2 shots on goal. Hopefully he didn't get injured. He was really bad on the face-off dot in that game. So yeah, I think we definitely need to train him up on face-offs a bit. Alright. So yeah, we've allowed 5 or more goals in 3 straight games. Definitely showing we're a draft glory team. Definitely. The question really is, though, do I want to start Shipley for a game? Because Shipley has been more of the backup and he hasn't started any games. It's been Dal Coley the entire time. But Dal Coley is definitely showing what his overall is right now. Do I want to make any adjustments to that? Let's see. Goalies. Yeah, Dal Coley is rocking a 458. So maybe bad goalies actually simulate like bad goalies now. Because I have seen, like, obviously Sorokin in my Islanders series. He simulates really good in the playoffs so far. You know what? I'm going to start Shipley for 1 game. Might as well. Because he's been the backup. I don't really care too much about the goaltending and all that. But I think that's what we're going to lean towards doing. The good thing about us probably going out here in this first round is we probably will get to see if Ristolainen ends up winning another Selke or not. I don't know if he will, but I am intrigued just to see if he ends up being up there or not. But anyways, we're down 3-1 in the series. Maybe we could take 3 straight games after losing 3 straight games. I don't know, but let's see what happens in this game. Obviously, it's going to be a real-time simulation because we're on the brink of elimination, but let's see if we can find a way to win in Minnesota like we did in Game 1. And we need to play much better defensively and goaltending-wise especially. Our offense has been okay, I'd say, in this playoffs, but the defense has definitely shown that it's still not great, and it's a work in progress. Can we find a way to get that first goal of the game? So far, no offense from either team, and it is going to be scoreless after the first period. So that's, I think, the first time in the series it's been scoreless after 1. But it has been pretty tight after the first period, and usually the second period is where we've lost games in the series for the most part. Shots are 12-11 in favor of Minnesota. No goals so far. Let's see if we could find a way to break this deadlock in the second period. Come on, guys. Hey, Del Monte scores again. So Del Monte's up to 3 goals in this playoff run. He's been probably one of the better players in terms of the offense, I would assume. But it's going to be interesting to look at the stat lines after this playoff run, matchup probably, just to see who's actually done well for our team and who hasn't. And we are going to have a 1-0 lead going into the third period. We are 20 minutes away from potentially picking up the first ever playoff shutout in franchise history. And of course, if that happens, it would be from Shipley, because Shipley's been, I think he was the first goaltender. It was either him or Tamlin that picked up the first ever shutout in franchise history. So wouldn't surprise me if he got it done in the playoffs as well. Shots are 21-20 in favor of Minnesota. It's a 1-0 lead for us. Can we get some insurance and lock down this game in Minnesota? Let's see what happens. Let's go. Ristolainen making it 2-0. I believe that's his second goal of the playoffs. That's a nice little insurance marker. Makes me breathe a little bit more easy here. Not that I'm breathing that heavily anyways, but still. Final 5 minutes of this third period, still up by a pair of goals. Can we lock it down? Yes, we can. Kolar's the empty netter. And Shipley picks up the first ever playoff shutout in franchise history, which is very, very nice. 33 saves for him, too. So he's definitely going to start next game based on that. That's a great performance from our team. We didn't need to be too flashy offensively, but we were good in net. And just like that, we're back in the series. So we won 2 games, but both of them are on the road so far. Del Monte from Norena and Bogosian, Ristolainen from Tuzolino and Kolars from Staubitz in Tuzolino. 3 stars of the game. Shipley, the first star, not really a surprise. Walsh, the second star, and Kolars, the third. How did Rick Kim do in that game? I know I keep checking on Rick Kim, but I was just curious on his stat line. 11 minutes, no points, no shots, 1 hit. Really bad on faceoffs again. Yeah, I definitely want to get to train him up on faceoffs or try and get him to play right wing, but I feel like it's going to be kind of tough for him to actually change over. But that's a really good performance there in that game. I feel like kind of we could force a game 7. I feel like for some reason that the game is going to all of a sudden give us like 3 really good defensive efforts, and we're going to take out Minnesota in 7 games, because that's just sometimes how this game operates. But honestly, I have no idea. Will we be able to go to a game 7? We need to find a way to win our first ever playoff game on home ice as well. Let's go back to goaltending. We're going to put Shipley back in again, because that was a really good performance from him. Was not really expecting it, considering he wasn't good as a... actually, yes, he's now been really good. He's up to a .959. And that's through a total of 49 saves, 89 minutes. Pretty good. So yeah, he's definitely going to be the guy for the playoffs right now, because Dal Coley just hasn't been that guy. All right, well, we're going to keep the rest of the team the same. Can we force a game 7? Can we win our first ever playoff game on home ice? Let's see what happens. Also, I forgot to mention, when a player scores like a hat trick on our team, you know how there's like the plushies that you could get thrown out, so you could get like teddy bears and hats and stuff, I think. I basically set it so that they throw aliens on the ice. So if we ever see a hat trick in a simulation game, it'll be interesting just seeing like all those aliens getting thrown on the ice. So just a little heads up on that. But let's get to game 6. See if we can build off last game. Give our fans a nice home win and go to a game 7. It's going to be real-time simulation, of course. Again, we open a scoring again. Pavel Malkin. He's been one of the better goal scorers as well on the team here in this first round. Let's freaking go. Can we get a power play goal? Yes, we can. Rick Kim scores his first ever goal in the NHL. Makes it 2-0 on the power play. Let's go, Rick. But Joel Eriksson breaks Shipley's shutout streak at almost 4 periods. In almost 4 periods. That's kind of crazy. Rouching him 11-6. So far, Shipley not off to the best of starts, but our offense is off to an okay start. Hopefully, we can keep that rolling in the second period. Let's keep it going. Can we get some insurance? Yes, we can. Staubitz makes it 3-1 here in the second. And Malkin scores again. So Malkin's got 2 games with 2 goals in it, which is kind of surprising, as Tijagimla gets Minnesota back on the board again. Come on, guys. Just keep on the gas. Don't let off. Don't let off. Final few minutes of the second period, still up by a pair of goals. And that's the way it's going to be going into the third. Shots are 21-16 in favor of us. We're a period away from going to a potential game 7 back in Minnesota. Can we lock it down and give our team its first ever home playoff win? Let's see what happens. Come on, guys. Let's lock it down, get some insurance if you need to as well. Anything to take the time off the clock, basically. Halfway through the period, still up by a pair of goals. Can we lock this down? Final 5 minutes. Come on, guys, just lock it down. Good defense so far. And we have forced a game 7 back in Minnesota. Of course we have. The cheese is strong. I could feel the cheese. I could feel it. Another good performance in terms of defensive play from our team. Malkin from Kim and Capaduca, Kim from Doig and Del Monte, Staubitz from Kohlers and Reina, and Malkin from Tuzolino. So Kim with another multi-point game. He is turning out to be pretty damn solid here in the playoffs. I'm excited to see what he could do in a full NHL season. 2 points. Malkin also 2 goals. This is great. Like, we're getting goals from some unlikely players. Kim was better on the faceoffs in that game, 42.9%, but obviously he still has a lot of work to do on that. 3 stars of the game, Malkin, Shipley, and Kim. Nice. Yeah, Shipley's been really good. So Shipley might be the cheese goalie we've been looking for to put in the lineup, so he's definitely going to get game 7 as well. He's definitely been really good since being put in as a starter over Dal Coley. So we're going to go back to edit lines and make sure he's in. And then who knows what's going to happen in game 7. Are we going to be the cheese team to knock out a 57-win team in our first ever playoff series? We definitely shouldn't be that good, but I still will definitely take it because it's good experience for the young guys. Obviously, yeah, regardless, we're going to be going up against probably a tough team next round if we get to the next round, because Utah, San Jose, Dallas, I think they're all really good teams if I'm not mistaken. And then in the East, New Jersey, Florida, Carolina, and probably I would assume the Rangers, but I'm not too sure on that. Might be going to the next round. All right, well, let's get to game 7. Keep the rest of the team the same. Let's see if Shipley could be the ship that we ride into the next round. Are the aliens going to be abducting the Minnesota Wild as the first team? Let's see. Oh, man. Come on, guys. Let's real-time simulation this game again. We've won multiple games in Minnesota so far, so definitely could do it again here. Definitely can. But it depends on what the sim engine wants to do to us, because sometimes it works one way, sometimes it doesn't. Malkin scores again. How has Malkin been such a good scorer here in the playoffs? Kaprizov ties it up at 1-0. But yeah, Malkin's definitely been our best goal scorer, I think, in this round here. He's outscoring guys on the first line, which is not what I was expecting, but Malkin definitely showing that he should be still in the lineup going forward. So it's 1-1 after 1 with the shots 14-9 in favor of us. Can we find a way to get that lead back in the second period? Second period underway. Come on, boys. If we win 3 straight games going into the next round, we're definitely going to get like swept in the in the next round or something like that. That's my guess. Can we get that lead? And who wants to be the hero on our team to give us that lead? We have a lot of good players. Kaprizov makes it 2-1 Minnesota. That's not ideal, especially late in the period. And we're going to be trailing going into the third period. Down by only a goal. We are out shooting in 27-20, but it seems like Wallsted's having a strong game, which is not ideal. Can we tie this game up in a third? Let's see what happens in potentially the final 20 minutes of our season. Long penalty kill. They get a power play goal from Joel Eriksson-Ek. That might be enough. That might be enough. Oh, Joig pulls us within 1. We're back into this game. I'm going to intervene. You know what? Screw it. We're going to intervene with 8 minutes to go. Considering this is our first ever playoff series, I do kind of want to see this team in action too. So we're going to intervene and actually watch some Albuquerque Aliens. Might as well, right? Might as well. So let's do that. And what I'm going to go and do here is make sure that I have, obviously, the music turned off, because don't want to get any copyright strikes. But I do really want to watch some action with our team and see what they're able to do. Just because might as well. And then I could get screenshots of some players too. Or we could see what guys look like out there. But let's see what ends up happening. There's still a lot of time left to try and tie this game up. We're in a Game 7 situation. We might as well just see what ends up happening. We're probably going to get skated around like crazy. Like our team's probably not going to look as good in-game. But you never know. Shots are pretty even. Goals are pretty even. We just need to find one more in this 8:45 to tie it up. Okay, let's see what ends up happening. Oh, man, our jerseys are a little bit bright. Oh, my goodness, that was dangerous. Yeah, our jerseys are a little bit on the bright side. And, wow, those pads from Shipley actually look kind of sick. But our jerseys are a little bit bright here. We kind of look like a team that would play, like, glow-in-the-dark mini-putt or something. It's kind of funny. Okay, we just got to get away, guys, and try and find a way to tie this up. We're probably not going to look as good in this game just because our team's so low overall. Here's a chance for a breakaway for Kolarz, I think. Yep, Kolarz with it. No. He's denied by Wallstead. It's still there. Kolarz again turned away by Wallstead. Oh, my goodness. That was a great chance. Bogosian throws it back out front. We are going to the power play as Carson Lambos heads to the box for cross-checking. Wow. That's pretty insane. That is pretty insane. Alright. We almost came that close to tying it up. Kolarz put in a good little effort there, but then he got cross-checked by Lambos. Yeah, that's a clear penalty. Now to see our power play team in action for the first time. We'll see if we can find a way to tie this one up here. There's still a lot of time left. I don't know if it's going to be a full 2-minute power play. If it is, might be a little bit of a longer episode, but it's okay. We get to see our team in action, which is exciting, but I'm not too sure if I like how bright my jerseys look in-game right now, but it's okay. It's not the worst jerseys I've ever seen. The black ones probably look a lot better. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a full 2-minute power play, so this is going to be probably a longer episode because of this, but whatever. Let's see if we get tied up. We got a lot of time on the clock. Just got to find a nice little setup. We have a lot of skill level on our power play, so might be able to do it. Del Monte to Bogosian! No, Wallstead stares him down. That was a nice play. Nice pass from Del Monte, and Bogosian had a backhand chance. Could not get it in. Wallstead's definitely showing he's looking like that goalie that he's promised to be. Ristolainen at the face-off dot against Rossi. He wins it, of course. Kim can't get the shot through. Kim battling. Still battling. Gets it. Kim. Ristolainen. Kolarz can't get a shot. He probably would have scored if he got a shot off there. Rossi dumps it down. Yeah, it's exciting to see this power play unit out there. We have 5 forwards out there, which is a little bit risky at this time, but that's okay. Staubitz, the captain. Throws it back. Rick Kim walks in. Shoots turned away by Wallstead. Here we are again with it. Kaprizov. Rick Kim. Shoots it again. Blocked. Oh my goodness. Rick Kim looks pretty good. There's his chances so far. Throws it to Ristolainen. Ristolainen finds Kolars. Kolars gets creamed. Oh my goodness. Sam Malinsky lined him up. I like that we're still hanging around with a pretty good team in Minnesota, though. Definitely shows some promise for the future if we lose this still. Del Monte gets stood up, and that's going to be probably taken out. Yeah, it looks like it. Boom. Rick Kim puts it back into the space. Bogosian can't get by Jokiharju. And he's going to clear it out. We haven't been able to get sustained offensive pressure here on this power play, but here's a chance. Kim to Doig, and that's turned away by Wallstead. If only Doig was an opposite-handedness player, guess he probably would have got a better shot away from there. Damn. Still a good little play. Still have the power play for a little bit longer here as we got Bogosian on the face-off dot. And he lost it. Struble will clear it. We're into the final 18 seconds of this power play. Kaprizov is going to hustle his way to that. Holy crap, he's fast. Throws it over, and that's a huge save. I think that's on Faber. But holy crap, Kaprizov shot out of a cannon there. Like, how did he beat us that fast to the puck? Damn, our team is slow by comparison. We need more speed in our game. Damn, Bogosian wins the draw. Del Monte to Tuzolino. He finds Doig. Esteban Doig carrying it in. Doig can't get a shot. Gets it back. Throws it to the point to Zelino. Norena. Doig a chance, and that's turned away on a 78.5 mile an hour slap shot. Or 1T, I should say. It's nice that they show the speed on there because it's kind of interesting to see how fast those shots are. Ristolainen back on the faceoff dot as our power play has expired. Can we get some sustained pressure here? Risto to Zelino. Bell with a chance, and that's turned away. We do have full pressure, but can we keep it in their zone? It's kicked to the point. Bell holds it in. Ristolainen. Staubitz can't get the shot as he's poke-checked aggressively by Wallstead. Tijiginla over to Marco Rossi. Can't get by Tuzolino. Tuzolino is hit, but he gets back up again as now Kolars got it. Mitej Kolars walking in. Can't get by. Pressures Lambos, but can't get to the net. Tijiginla with it now. Ginla to Rossi, and that's turned away. There was a rebound. I don't know how there was a rebound, but that was a little bit risky. Thrown back to the point. That is blocked. Here is Bates. Bates gets tripped up almost, but no penalty call. McKenna's shot is turned away. We're into the final minute. I didn't even realize already. Is Pavel Malkin, the leading goal scorer, probably finds Rick Kim, and it's turned away. We have an empty net out there. Another chance for Kim, and that's turned away. I like that our effort here at trying to tie this game up, but just cannot find a way to do it because Wallstead's so good. But yeah, that was a huge hit there. I don't know who that was. This is Staubitz? Maybe it was Staubitz. But we got an offensive zone face-off. Rick Kim is taking the draw, and he's not great at face-offs, but can he win it against Gavin McKenna? No, he cannot. That's not great, but we do steal the puck back, but now it's with Kaprizov, and he misses the empty net. We got to be careful here. Bates throws it over to Norena. We have 30 seconds left. Rick Kim with it. Kim can't get by. He pokes it back to Kaprizov, and that's going to be offsides as Ristolainen goes in. Still 24 seconds left, though. Still time to tie this one up. Oof, still have the empty net out there as well. We have our 5 guys up front. Tuzolino's in the back. As Bogosian takes the face-off against Joel Eriksson-Ek. And Eriksson-Ek wins it. Faber throws it over. Blocked by Bogosian. He's got it over to Doig. Esteban Doig is stood up at the blue line. Matthew Joseph is probably going to ice this here. Yes, he is. As he puts a weak shot through Tuzolino's legs. And the Minnesota Wild, they're going to eliminate us in 7 games. I mean, I think it's been a pretty good effort still from this team. Like, going to a Game 7 with a 57-win team. I didn't expect us to really get to the next round, but we definitely put in a good effort. I don't know why, though, the AI still don't try and block shots that much on an empty net like that. Like, that should be a play that Tuzolino just dives down and blocks it easily. Like, how does he just let this weakness go by? Like, there's no hustle on that play whatsoever. That's okay. That's okay. Also, all these coach cutscenes, I think, are new, if I'm not mistaken. So, kind of interesting to see those. Because I don't think I've seen them yet. Alright, well, that sucks that we're going to be out in the first round, but I'm still impressed, I would say. Boldy definitely killed us, though, in this game. And in the series, I should say, actually, for that matter. Shots are even in this game, too, and we're down by 2. That kind of sucks, but whatever. Gojin, final few seconds as we pull the goalie again. Torpchenko is going to stand him up, and that's going to be it. Your Albuquerque Aliens are going to lose in the first round of the playoffs for the first time in their first ever series, but that's okay. That's okay. It was good experience for the young kids, and I will take it. Let's just advance for this because I don't need to see them celebrate. But I'd still, I'm impressed with the team. I am. And it's interesting to see what the guys look like out there, just because this is the first time we've actually seen them skating around and all that. But Shipley's pads, though, they're actually team colored, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure most of the times they aren't. I didn't even adjust his colors on his pads, too, so they must have fixed something because usually the pads are different colors, I think. But yeah, that looks interesting. He is wearing an Anaheim Ducks mask, which makes no sense, but obviously there's no mask for my created team anyways. But let's take a look at our final stats from that game. Malkin had the 1 goal, and we had a couple guys on 1 point, but the worst plus-minus was Ristolainen, surprisingly. Shipley was actually pretty good again, but unfortunately lost. All right. Well, final few things we got to do to wrap up this episode. Take a look at our player stats from the first round. Obviously find out, like, what this draft class is looking like and all that stuff as well, because we do want to set up the off-season for next episode if we can. But let's take a look at our player stats from our first ever playoff series. So, wow, I didn't realize Norena was on 7 points. Damn, Norena was great too. So Malkin led with 5 goals and 6 points. He was a beast. Yeah, he was a beast. Like a few years ago, he only had 9 goals in the regular season. So 5 goals in the playoffs is great. Risto was on 6 points. Del Monte on 5. We got some pretty solid offense from a good chunk of guys. Doig was maybe a bit quiet. Not too great. And then that fourth line was a big issue. They only had 1 assist combined. And we're all minus players. So fourth line definitely let us down a bit. Defensively, Norena had 7 points in 7 games. He was great. Tuizelino was on 6 points. Bell had 3 points, which is pretty good. Bates on the 1 goal. Whitfield was a -7 and had no points. So Whitfield is pretty bad. He's pretty bad. Damn. Did Bell have 2 fights because he had 10 penalty minutes, or were they all individual penalties? He had no fights, so he had 10 penalty minutes, and they were all minor penalties. Damn, that's not good. Goalies, yeah, Tommy Shipley was great. 939, and Dalcoli was absolutely tragic. That's okay. All right. So there's our stats from our first ever playoff series. Now the question is who's going to win the Stanley Cup and all that stuff. And then obviously what is the draft class looking like and that type of stuff to wrap up this year. I'm excited for next season though, because a full season of Rick Kim seems like it's definitely going to give us good offensive boost a bit too. Obviously the defensive core is still a major work in progress though, so that's something we need to work on. And then having Spezza in net next season probably will make us better. So the Stanley Cup champions is the Minnesota Wild, and apparently our coach must have won the Jack Adams because we just got that achievement that you get every single year when one wins one. The achievements have never changed, it seems like. But Minnesota wins the Stanley Cup, so we just lost to the best team in the NHL in 7 games. So I'm impressed. I'm impressed. So Minnesota, the Stanley Cup champions. Who did they beat? The New Jersey Devils. Interesting. Okay. So let's go over to that playoff bracket. Were we the best team against Minnesota? Yes, we were. We're the only team that took them to 7 games. So that's a very positive thing to take away. And very positive. Let's take a look at these awards, though. So Minnesota, the Stanley Cup champion. We also had Edmonton on the President's Trophy, Minnesota, New Jersey Cup Finals. Art Ross went to Connor McDavid, and same with the Hart. Quinn Hughes wins the Norris in Columbus. Lady Bean going to Clayton Keller. Bengtsson for Nashville wins the Calder. I don't remember who he is. Boldy won the Conn Smythe for Minnesota. I mean, not really a surprise. He was doing really good against us. Skinner the Vezina and the Jennings. Stoner the Masterton for Winnipeg. Okay. Wharton, so there's our head coach winning the Jack Adams. That's awesome. I really like that one. Takes a team that shouldn't be really a playoff team and gets them into a playoff spot. And yeah, Austin Matthews did win the Richard, or not the Richard, the Selke over Ristolainen. So unfortunately, No Selke for 3 straight years for Ristolainen, but he still should win more in his career at some point. Connor McDavid, the Lindsay, Kaprizov, the Richard. AHL awards, not that this matters too much, but anyone's for our team down there? Does not look like it. That's unfortunate, but that's okay. That's okay. So those are the awards to wrap up the season. Now the question is about the draft and all that stuff going forward. So Pittsburgh's going to win the draft lottery. Winnipeg number 2. Anaheim, Vegas, and Philadelphia. We're probably going to have like 18th overall or something in this year's draft. I don't even really know. But in terms of player retirements, not that this matters too much really. The biggest name that retired for a forward was Artemi Panarin. Still kind of weird seeing him without hair. Braden Point retires. Elias Lindholm. Some pretty solid names. And then on the defensive side of things, the best defenseman retired, Morgan Riley. In Montreal's AHL team. That's kind of weird. Seth Jones, Hampus Lindholm, Brandon Montour, Thomas Chabot. Best goalie to retire was Andrei Vasilevsky. That's a pretty substantial one. And Connor Hellebuyck retired. And Ilya Sorokin. Damn. 3 really good goalies are all retired. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up winning Vezina now, considering these 3 guys are all really good goalies. Philadelphia had 2 of them in the AHL too, which is kind of interesting. So there we go. The retirements. Coach retirements. Did we lose anybody? Nobody in Burnaby and no... Actually, Valklov Honzik. That might be our goalie coach. He retires. Okay. All right. Sure, let's go to the draft class because we have draft interviews. We're going to be drafting kind of late. I don't know where we're drafting yet still. I would assume probably around this point. Ooh. If we're drafting around this point, you guys did say we need more two-way defenders. Zach Hurd is a two-way defender, and he's a top 4. He might be exactly what we kind of need at that spot. Because we already have good offense, I feel like. It's just the defense is something that we need to work on. But Zachary Mitchell looks so good as a forward. He's a right winger that's 1 year out. Might be low elite. But I don't really even know if that's something we need. Wow. Yeah, Zachary Mitchell looks fantastic. But he's not a defenseman. That's the only problem. Hudson Reynolds might be elite, but kind of tough to tell. Is there any low elites and medium elites to pin? Ooh, a medium elite 2-way forward that's a gem. In Carter Hennessy, he needs to be picked for sure. There's also Milan Havlat as a medium elite goalie. But we don't really need more medium elite goalies that much, but we'll pin him anyways. Okay, so this might be a pretty good draft class based on some of this thing. Moises Wolf could be medium elite as well. He could be also low elite. This actually might be a good draft class, potentially. Which is good. Rajala might be okay. Jace Allen. I really like the looks of Zachary Mitchell, but I know that I need that top 4 defenseman maybe, so... Depends, I guess, where we're drafting. Because if we can't get the defenseman at our spot, Mitchell has to probably be the pick. Because considering he's 1 year out, he's probably going to be really high overall for a top 6 forward or low elite or something like that. But he looks really great. Alright, so that's the draft class. Final few things. We have the contract situation and the progress reports. So let's take a look at the progress reports here. See what we're getting in terms of player development. So Ristolainen is getting some probably statistical. Yes, sir. Same with Bogosian. Rick Kim, obviously we saw got a lot of natural growth. So he's probably going to take over that second line spot potentially. Which means Bogosian's going to be third line maybe next season. And then Steen jumped up to an 80 overall. So we might actually have a legit center core next season. Which means Tulipov, the only way he could probably get back into the lineup is if we somehow move Steen over to a winger and then Tulipov played down the middle. Yeah, I don't know if Tulipov is going to come back up next season. Might not. Left wing side, I think Kolars, Del Monte, Capaduca looking good. Camilleri's up to a 76 as well. Bure up to a 72. Looks like we're getting some good growth in the system. Nice. And then on the right wing side, I think Stelbitz is an 87. Doig an 84. A little bit weaker on the right hand side for sure. But Malkin has shown that he's a good goal scorer. Perron's not doing much more in terms of development. And Zetterberg probably won't grow a lot more than this. But he is getting natural growth, so that's good. From a defensive standpoint, Tuzolino 92, Bell an 85, Norena an 83, Bates a 76, and same with Whitfield. We'll take a look at the AHL in a little bit. Spezza up to a 77, so yeah, Trenton Spezza will be in the NHL next season. He is already listed as a backup goaltender too, so Trenton Spezza will get the debut, which is exciting. Maybe he could actually make us a very good team in terms of goaltending too. And then Dal Coley probably would be his backup next year, which means Shipley might be close to his way out. We do have a lot of goalies in the system. The high starter jumped up to a 59, so that's impressive. Yeah, Shipley might be close to on his way out, which is unfortunate. From an HL defensive standpoint, Ackerstrom is up to a 70, Tulipov up to a 70, Lee up to a 68, Gardner 65. So getting some growth from those guys, which is nice. Watson up to a 53 at 19. That's okay. Right wing side of things, Timmins is staying at 70. Enroth up to a 65 as a medium 9. I'll take that. Left wing side of things, the low lead grinder, Mark Dagg, up to a 72 at 20. He had 47 goals in Cape Breton this year. Really good year from him. And yeah, he's going to be an exciting player. How good is his physical attributes, out of curiosity? Not the best offensive player, but in terms of physicality, he's pretty physical. So he might be a prototypical bottom 6 grinder for us. Then Lambert up to a 68. That's pretty solid. Seagal up to a 65. Guite 65. Peterson, the low lead up to a 56 at 20. Skylar's taking his time to develop too, which is unfortunate. And at center, Mauricio Peterson, who we drafted quite high up last year, he also should be in the NHL. We got to find a way to change the center over to a winger at this point, which means Rick Kim, I would love to change him over to a right winger if we can, because he's definitely not good at faceoffs, and we could move Mauricio Peterson into the NHL. So we would technically have like 5 NHL-ready centers with Stefan Steen too. So it's either getting Steen or Kim to change over to a right winger. And if both of them don't want to change, do we just play them at right wing regardless, or what? I think it'd be interesting to see if we could get them to change, but some other growth from some other guys like Heatley's up to a 61 at 20. Okay. Yeah, our center core is definitely the strongest point, I think, on our forward side of things. Then it's the left wing, and then the right wing is pretty bare outside of Staubitz and Doig. So we could use that right winger that's supposed to go in the first round as well, technically, but it would be nice to solidify our defense more. So I need your guys' opinion on that for sure. And then final thing, the contract situation. What is this looking like? So we got to bring back Drew Bell. He's going to be probably expensive as a defensive defenseman. Not too bad, to be honest. That's only a 4-year deal, though. He only wants a 4-year, which walks him to free agency potentially. But Gojin also needs a new contract extension. He only wants a 1-year that walks him to UFA status. That's kind of scary. At least as of right now. Capaduca. Okay, 3 years, 2,175. That's not bad. So we definitely have a lot more guys to pay actual money to this season in the last few years. And then guys like Camilleri probably still want 2-way, right? Yeah, okay, that's good. So we are going to have to start paying money to a little bit more players than normal. And then our goaltending, we probably have to let go of Thorne for sure. We could let go of Dal Coley and use Shipley as a backup, but we could use Dal Coley as the backup next year in the NHL too. Ollie, I don't know if he gets a qualifying offer because he's also scratched. So we kind of need to free up some goalie spaces a bit. And then from our unsigned pool, which of these guys are we going to sign for the AHL next year? Obviously, I think Dagg's going to be in the AHL next year. Peterson is probably... He could be in the NHL. He didn't get any growth as an onside guy, so that might be a good idea. Okay. So that's that. And that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the Year 8 offseason. We'll obviously make our team a little bit stronger for next season. I think we're going to have a good team again next year. I don't know if playoffs are going to be necessarily happening or not, but I think there is a bit of more promise because, for one, Rick Kim jumped up a lot. Then we also have more center depth than we used to. It's just more that defensive core and that goaltending that we don't really know how it's going to simulate because Trenton Spezza hasn't made the NHL yet, so this is going to be his first ever season as an NHL goalie. But yeah, so let me get down below, and I'll see you guys next time.